Alright, we left off the other day on page 304, and on that page, they talk about the home page. Alright, so as it says, with all the core functionality, in other words, so far we've looked at the database, the template that we're using for the header and footer, the utilities file, the main classes. We did that last time. Alright, so he says now it's time to do the actual work. And remember, he's using short PHP scripts. Normally what you'd be doing instead of this is you would be creating more classes than he's created in the project. So he says to start with, let's create the home page. Notice what it says. It will retrieve the 3 most recent pages of content, display previews of them, and link to the script where the viewer can see the content. Alright, I think everybody gets this, but I just wanted to show one more thing. This is right now, not there. That's how this looks. I think everybody's kind of cool with that. Everybody gets it, etc. But if I go back into here, so I'm just going to jump in for a second here into MySQL. Okay. And those are the different pages that we have. So hopefully that won't be screwed up. We're going to see in just a minute. Alright, now we'll see if I screwed this up or didn't screw this up. Error. Column count doesn't match value count. So what did I goof up? Null 3. Oh, I guess I didn't put it. I shouldn't have put it. This is my latest post. So let me try to fix that. No, that's what they've got. Oh, I guess I need single quotes. I use double quotes. I should know better than that. Evidently, I don't. Let's throw some. Thank you. It's not worth saving. Now I've got an X. Yeah. hopefully that was it. Now, if we go back and refresh the page, well, I guess it's not sticking them in there. But notice it changed the dates to the current date. Right? And what I did was I just tried to circumvent the way that you're supposed to do this, and I guess it didn't like it. All right? But he automatically put that in, that these two had the current date, and this one had the current date minus a day or something like that. Well, so much for trying to show you something. All right. So let's create the home page. Let's look at what's in the home page. Does everybody understand by now the difference between this and this? Do you all understand the difference between require and include? Can anybody tell me the difference between require and include? What's that? Yeah, require means that if it's not there, you error out. The program will end. Include means if it's not there, give me a warning. So for instance, if you can't find that header file, we're including that instead of requiring it because you won't have that nice header on the top, so you won't have this, but it would still be functional. All right? And this is the whole footer down here, this big thing that he made down here. So the header and the footer. So both of those, rather than being required, are included. If you go down to the bottom here, footer's included also. All right? If you, what is in here, starting from line 10 and going down to line 31, all right? No, but that code that's in there, once it fires, that's creating this. That's your content area. So if you didn't have then the footer would be up there. That's correct. Correct. We could do that, but the way things have been working already today, I don't really want to go that far. All right. So let's go in and see what we're doing in here. So fetch the 3 most recent pages. All right. So try. Select ID, title, content, date formatted, etc. All right. So in other words, limit of 3. Why are we using a limit of 3? That should make sense because the way this is set up, it's a 3-column format. All right. Then we run the query. Well, it says check that the rows were returned. It better have returned at least 1 row. If it didn't return at least 1 row, no. It's literally returning a row for each record that we're throwing in there. All right, so notice what it says. Select ID, title, content. So literally what this is doing, in fact, let's do this, because that's a good question. It's the row, this row right here, this one, that is a row in the database. All right, and what I was going to try to show you, but of course I love the way that this is set up because it doesn't let you copy. I was going to just grab all of this, all of that, and I was going to copy it to the clipboard and then paste it in to show you what would be returned. All right, but what literally is returned when we do this query that you see on line 13 is that stuff that's right there. Not the read more, that's put in later. All right, but everything else, that's what that does. All right. So, as it says, we're going to fetch them. This, kind of what you were asking, I think, Mark, where we include the views, that's where we're doing the formatting to make it look as though it's basically sending as one thing. Kind of. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, yeah. And we're going to go over that in just a minute. So if you didn't return anything, there's a problem. And it's not really, he throws an exception, but he just wants to let the user know it's a new site or whatever, and there's no content available. All right. This thing that's right in here, because I've been working with the first year people a little bit on exception handling in Java. Remember that if you have multiple different types of exceptions, the most generic one is called exception, and it should always be last. Because if it's first, it catches basically everything. So you should always go from the most specific to the most general when you're listing your exceptions. All right. So he explains, again, define the page title, fetch the 3 most recent pages. This is what I just mentioned to you. So that's kind of what it looks like when you get that back. Not very nice. All right, so he's got to do some formatting of it to make it look somewhat decent. He came up with the arbitrary number of about 200 words, or I think it's 200 characters. And then after we get the 200 characters, I'm going to put that in there. And then you can click on that and get the rest of the article. All right. And the funny thing is, look, that is the one I put in. See that? Yeah. But I'm surprised it didn't move that here. And I'm not sure why, but these two both have the same date, so it has something to do with that. Okay? So we could have checked both on the date and something else. All right? It might be. There's all sorts of stuff that it could be. Because, yeah, we got Lorem Ipsum here and Lorem Ipsum here, and it could be, you're right, it could be just about anything. All right. The good news is that you did actually get to see that I was able to manually put something in there. All right. Ideally, though, that's a really horse's ass way of doing this, pardon my French. We should have something up here that once you are logged in, that you're able to go in and add another page. Or, if you're in as an administrator, you're able to add a page. To have to go back to the database like this to add a page is not very good. All right? You saw what a pain it was right there. And I sort of knew what I was doing. Okay. So again, he runs through everything that I just mentioned to you. Again, if no rows were returned, it's probably a problem with a query, or you haven't created any content. Catch the exception. So we just went through that. All right. So next he says, begin a new HTML script in the editor that's going to be called this. This is going to be our view, homepage view. Now, you might look and say, wait a minute. You already did an index.html, but remember, the way that this is set up, and I'm not in there. That's where I want to be. All right. There's page and user. There's our CSS. There's our images. There's our includes. Well, I thought I was going to show you something that maybe I'm not. There we go. That's the index that he's talking about. So that index that's inside of his views is not the same as that index. That makes sense? For no other reason, that's a PHP file, and these are all HTML files. Okay? So if we look, this is the one that he's having you create next. Not a lot in it. And it's interesting. Looks like we broke a rule here. What rule does it look like we broke? What's the extension on the file? And what are we putting in there? So how can we do that? Because it's being included by a PHP file. Yes. Otherwise, that wouldn't work. Okay. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That's this one that's right here. That's the one that we just looked at. But after he does all this stuff, then he includes the views error HTML. Oh, I'm sorry, up here. If this worked, he includes the views index HTML. All right. Now we literally could go into here. It's after he makes sure that he's able to build a page. Okay. All right. Notice we got junk because I tried to invoke the HTML file, but I did it from outside of the PHP file that it's included in. And by default, what this does is it just shows you the code because it doesn't understand. That's what runs by default. So again, if we did not include that file, if we didn't include that views file, okay, let's see what happens. Because I literally don't have any idea what it's going to look like when we do this, but I'm commenting that out. I don't know if that's what you're asking or not. All right. It doesn't even know how to handle it. All right. So you can see how easy it is for you to screw up something. And if I did this, so if I came in here and I grabbed in that SQL file, I don't care about the one I created anymore, so I'm going to remove that, okay? So that one's gone. All right. Now, I'm going to grab these because I want to put them right back in just a second. No, this is good. I'm glad you asked this because it actually brings up some good stuff. So I'm going to come back into here and I'm going to say delete from pages. All right. So now, would you agree? Select star from pages. There's nothing in there, right? So now notice when we come back to here and we refresh, no content is available to be viewed at this time. So that is what we ended up getting. That was this. And if we bring up that file, which is in views, there it is. All right, so if I come back in here again, paste those three back in, hit enter. Notice I didn't put mine in. I didn't want to take any chances. All right, come back in here and refresh. Now it's back again. And it's interesting because look at the dates on there. No, you know what the author did? He wanted to make sure that that one came first, so he added 2 days to the current date. All right. Literally, if you go in and you take a look at the stuff that's in the SQL.SQL file, see that? That's how he did it. All right. I don't know why, but that's how he did it. And notice the third one, the last one had 1 million, and the first one had 1 million, and the second one had 2 million. All right. So if I went and added one more in here, That's how I should have shown you to begin with. And then come over here and put in a 3. All right. So we'll delete. We'll double check to make sure it's been removed. It has. We'll add again. Of course I have an error. Is it possible for me to do something like that without an error? I guess not. Nope, there's nothing wrong with an exclamation point in there. But it doesn't like something. Alright, it doesn't like something. I'll just put it, let's see if it's in mine, the one I just put in. In fact, let's do this. Let's grab this. Alright. So that's all I changed for those two things. Yeah, it's saying that the error is by right there. So somehow I goofed something up. I don't know what. I'd like to know, but I don't know what it is. Alright, but if I come back in here now and put these 3 in fact, let's do this. See if this works. This is the first post. This is the second post. This is the third post. Let's see if we do it like that, if that breaks, or if it works. Okay, well, I got to remove all that stuff first. And then try to paste it back in. So, third, second, first. Alright? That is correct. Alright. So he runs through that. You got a lot more out of it, hopefully, than he did when he just explained that, because he didn't say too much in there. Alright. Viewing a page, as he says, moving onward to the site, the home page shows the previews of the 3 most current pages. He said that's the purpose of the page.php file. Alright? So that's this one right here. You'll notice as he gets into it, what he has is he's running a lot of queries in here. Alright? And does everybody understand? And I'm asking, this is me being ignorant. This is the front end. Does that make sense to people? This is the front end. MySQL is in the back end. And you want this stuff to be filled in automatically on the front end by the back end, because by and large, the people running this don't know what, they don't know any MySQL and don't want to know any MySQL. And again, as mentioned, now if we go and click any one of these, all right, please do me a favor, look up here, see where it's highlighted. All right, would you all agree we're on the index page? All right, now notice how it changes. We're on page.php ID equals 16. Well, how do we get such a big ID? Because I kept adding and removing records. All right. And if I go and bring up the next one, 15, and if I bring up the one, 14. That should make sense because, again, we put them in that way. All right. So what he's doing is he's appending onto page.php the ID of the one he wants to bring up. Because by default, when you're in index.php, you only show the first 200 characters. And when you click the read more link, what you're saying is, oh, I want to bring up the page.php file. But it has to know which of these to bring up, and it knows based on the ID. All right? And that, in a nutshell, is what he's explaining in here. So if you want more on all the queries and this, etc., it is in there. All right. One of the last things, if not the last thing that's discussed in the chapter, starts on page 312. And it's, for lack of better words. Okay? In fact, what I want to try to do, if I remember, by the end of class today, is I did an example with this using HTML Quick Form 2. And I had it. I have no idea if it's still here or not, but I'll go and look for it. And if it's not, I'll see if I can just grab one from online that would do what I want to show you. If you want to use HTML Quick Form, HTML Quick Form is part of what's called the pair project. Notice pair. All right, and that's some kind of a PHP archive type of thing. It's the equivalent almost of using like import statements. All right. But what it is it's another library that's available to you in PHP, all right? And the reason I'm telling you all that is hopefully I put it in here. So I went out online and I couldn't remember how to do this. It had been a while. So if you want to do this, you don't have to, but there's a file in here that's called HTML Quick Forms 2 URLs. All right, and in that file, among other things, there's 3 URLs that have an article here. That's where I got this from. Another article, and those are both from the manual page. But notice this. You literally bring up a DOS prompt in your virtual desktop. Then you change to the C drive. Then you CD to XAMPP PHP, and you run this. That installs, all right, that installs HTML Quick Form 2 on your machine. Does that make sense? So why XAMPP PHP? Well, if you look in here, if I go back and I find XAMPP, it's in here someplace, and if I find the PHP folder, one of the things that's in there someplace is HTML Quick Form 2. All right. I mean, if I search for it, I should find it. I don't know where it is. No, that's HTML. There's Quick Form 2. And by doing all that stuff that I just told you, by doing all of this, it goes through there and it finds it. But you have to tell it basically where to dig through in order to find it. All right. Now, you may or may not have noticed this, but actually, with what he put on here, you may or may not agree, that's a pretty simple form. All right. And I don't know why he did this. Maybe other than he thought, well, you know, this would be a cool time for me to bring up HTML Quick Form. That's fine. That's cool. All right. But he talks about it, and I mentioned this to you the other day, and I want to say a few things about HTML Quick Form. All right. So again, he tells you how to do the install, etc. The way that I did it worked. I'm not sure if his way works or not, but the way I did it, I know it works. Then notice $form equals new HTML Quick Form, and you give it a name. These are the elements that you can put in there. And they're the basic ones that you have with HTML, the ones you know about. All right? Those are the standard. Then there's custom ones also. Notice, if you set script, it'll automatically write the JavaScript for you. I think I mentioned that the other day. All right? So it looks ugly the way that you have to add stuff, and I don't like the example that he shows in here. All right? But basically, he does show you in here how he goes and adds the different information. I'm going to go during the break and see if I can find the one that I have. I'll run it for you. You can see how fast it creates stuff for you. All right. Then, what's one nice thing about HTML Quick Form is it has this. That literally validates your entire form. And if it fails, you have an else on there, and you do something on the else. If it succeeds, you can do whatever you want to do. Okay? Let's say what you want to do is you want to stay right on the page you're on. You with me? So you put that in there, but you want to stay on that page. There's a command that you can put in here to stay on the page that you're on that's called freeze. That literally will do that. Okay? There's a lot of different things that you can do with this. It's a pretty cool add-on. So he goes through and he shows you how he writes everything. All right. And again, I'm not going to go through it because you might find it more confusing than helpful, to be honest with you. All right. Then he comes in and talks about the login view next, up on page 318. And the login view is what's going to create this. All right. So, begin a new script. All right. Login.html. So again, if we go back in and we look one more time in here, not there. So we've looked at the quick form URLs. We've looked at error. We've looked at index. That I'll keep open just in case. We've looked at index.php, page.php, and there's login.php. This is where he's literally building the form. That's how you set it up using HTML Quick Form. So you can say, well, what are you doing? Well, hopefully by looking at this, it makes some sense. This says add a text box called email. This says add a label. It's called email address. This says trim whatever's in here. This says add a rule, and you can't add rules to labels, so it automatically adds this rule up here that says that's a required field, and it automatically gives you a little red exclamation point by it. All right. And this says run email checks for me. So if you put in an invalid email, it should flag it. Then he does the same kind of thing with a password. All right. And here it says if all that stuff worked, then you want to come in and look in there and say, okay, the user is attempting to log in. Is there a record in the database? Well, remember, there's two tables here. All right, we've already looked at the pages table. In fact, there's our users table. The only thing that's hard about this, so we have to put in public at example.com, and I think this was back a while back because he encrypted this. I think it's called like public pass or something like that. We can try it. Nope, that is what I want to do. Log in. So notice, for example, if I do this and I put in a bad email on purpose, all right, please enter your email address. See that? And denotes key fields. All right. So if I get rid of this and just try to run it, please enter your email address. First one was invalid. So again, this was earlier in the chapter, but I think it's public at example.com, and I think this was public pass, but I might be wrong. All right. So what changed? See that? What did that say before? Log in. Okay. So we're public now. We didn't go in as admin. Those are the other ones. So we can log out, and it's the same type of way. So I can log in here as admin at example.com, and I think this was just example pass. All right. The values did not submit and match those on file. Okay, then it wasn't example. It wasn't admin. Admin pass. I thought that's what it was. Yeah, it was. I typed it in wrong the first time. All right, so now I'm in, and I'm in as an administrator. All right. Yeah, you could have denoted it someplace. All right. And maybe you probably would want to do that in here where you would show people, you know, what they were logged in as or whatever. All right. So here's where he builds the login, the login view that you see. Okay. And not only is there a login, there's a logout. Well, this stuff should make sense to you because we talked about how you end a session before. You set the session equal to an empty array. You set the cookie associated with the session to a time in the past, and you call session destroy. That's it. And they change it so instead of saying log out, it will now say log in. All right. So let's see. We were logged in. If we log out, you are now logged out. Thank you for visiting. Okay. And this says log in again. All right. So that stuff you saw there was the same stuff that's right here. All right, he explains what's going on, etc., as far as what's going on here. All right, it says, finally, there's the most important feature of a content management system. This is the last 2 pages of the chapter, 322 and 323. No, it's, I guess, last 4 pages. It says, thanks to HTML Quick Form, this isn't much harder than the login form. All right, what he did was he made an assumption here that the content is just simple HTML that the user would hand edit. Naturally, full-fledged CMS systems, you can do all sorts of other things. Mark mentioned before, remember this? That really was the editor that you were using pretty much with Joomla until we changed it later. All right. So he says that you can come in here and you can add page. Okay. So if we look at that one, so we've now looked at login and log out, and there's add page. All right. So what do we have to do? We have to bring up the form, the add page form, and verify everything. You put a title in, you filled it all out the way you were supposed to fill it out, then validate it to make sure that what you put in was what you were supposed to put in. All right. Now, I'm going to try something again with the luck I've been having, but let's try it. What the heck? Thought it was add page, wasn't it? Add underscore page. Okay. Call to a member function, create page on a non-object. All right. What the heck is that? What it is we are trying to invoke this page. Instead of trying to invoke it from the main page, we're trying to invoke it literally right from here. All right. But when I looked on here, and Mark, this just so you know, because you asked this before, you didn't, but you sort of did. If I hit enter here, that automatically is the same thing as if I did this. All right. But when I look in here, I don't see where he has an add page. See that? So it looks like he didn't put that in. And going down here, login, register, this, that, read more, I don't see it. Now, maybe I'm missing something, but I don't see it on here. Does anybody else? So you'd have to add the functionality over here to add a page. But why doesn't he maybe do that? In fact, let's log in again as an administrator. All right. Someplace in here, we probably, and again, I still don't see it, under other stuff. Add a new page. Thank you. All right. Add a new page of content. Now, I want to do one more thing. I want to come in here and say God. Now, why am I doing that? I want to make sure. Okay, I want to make sure we get that read more in there when we do this. So add the page. Page has been added. Okay, how do we know the page has been added? Well, we want to get out of here, so let's go back to the home page. All right. Oh, guess why it's not there? Look at the dates. No, I could have done that, or I can come in here now and I should be able to remove these two. All right, so let's do this. Delete from pages where, in fact, let's do this. Let's make sure I'm doing it right. Select ID from pages. 14, 15, 16, and 17. 17 is the one we just put in, correct? So, delete from pages where ID equals 16. Let's just do that. All right. And the date on this must be later than the date on this. Does that make sense? So there's the page we just added. No, the way that you typically would, just so you know, but what he did, if you go back and you look at this, he did, like you said, he put stamps on here. Had we just put now on all of these, had we just done that, it wouldn't have been an issue. It would have been doing it, it would have done it by, because that does the date and the time. So had we done that, the last one we put in would have been the oldest, or the newest one. All right? Oh, that's good. I'm glad you, thank you, Travis. I'm glad you saw that. So we noticed, what did we do in here? Actually, a lot of cool, I think at least, some cool stuff. All right? This was a CMS. We were shown that we were able to log in as two different users. All right? And remember, what did we log in on? There was a public, I think an author, and admin. So you already saw the admin, right? Okay. So if we come back in here, let's log out. And let's try to log in again. And let's try to log in this time as an author. I think it was that, but we'll find out. Yeah, and the P in pass is uppercase. All right. There we can add a new page again. See that? All right. If we come back one more time and we log out and we try to log in one more time and we log in as public. Whoops. And we log in, we don't get that. Does all that make sense? So actually, it's a much cooler example than I let on that it was. All right? And to me, this is one of the reasons I wanted to pick the book, because I like this. And Mark has already mentioned, for example, could he work on this for his project? Yes. I have no problem with that. I expect it to be expanded upon, and I'd expect you'd rip out the heading that's in there and put in yours. You'd rip out the footer that's in there and put in yours. Has everybody seen this too, that at the end of each chapter he puts these review and pursue things in here? Where he... Yeah, that's true. That's true.